The first sign was the low, haunting growl that drifted through the jungle mist, carrying over the tangled roots and fallen leaves. A figure lay huddled against a tree stump, muscles tense and eyes wary, yet too tired to fight. The chains that bound him clinked softly with each shallow breath, a sound almost drowned by the distant roar of the river. Jamil paused, heart tightening. The lion's golden coat, once proud and lustrous, was matted with grime, flecked with dried blood. Every movement was a careful calculation, a life suspended in both pain and fear. He knelt several paces away, keeping his voice low. "It's okay. I'm here," he whispered, letting the words float in the humid air. The lion's ears twitched, a sign of acknowledgement, neither relief nor aggression, just measured attention. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Sunlight pierced the canopy in thin shafts, illuminating dust motes that danced around the chains. Jamil's eyes traced each link, noting rust and splintering wood from the cage that confined such strength and dignity. He could see the strain in the lion's limbs, the way he shifted slowly, avoiding pressure on raw patches of skin. Every motion was pain disguised as stillness. Hours passed in tense observation. Jamil crouched behind ferns, his senses attuned to every subtle sign. The flick of a tail, the shallow moan that betrayed exhaustion, the wary gaze that sought assurance. The jungle held its own chorus. Birds called from high branches, insects whispered in the undergrowth, and somewhere, water lapped against stone. But all was secondary to the lion's silent plea. He moved closer, inch by careful inch. His hands hovered above the chains, not touching, letting the lion smell his presence, recognize intention. Trust was earned in moments like this, quiet and deliberate. "Easy, easy now," he murmured, voice soft, almost lost in the forest hum. The lion's head lifted, eyes narrowing, studying without hostility, muscles tense but patient. When he finally touched the chains, it was gentle pressure, assessing the rusted locks, the fragile links. Sweat ran down Jamil's brow, the humid air sticking to his skin, but he focused on the rhythm of breathing, the faint rise and fall of the lion's chest. He worked slowly, careful not to startle, each click of a tool punctuating the silence. Time stretched, measured by the lion's tentative movements and cautious observation. Finally, the last link yielded with a muted clang. The lion froze, ears swiveling, nostrils flaring, but did not flee. Instead, he exhaled slowly, a soft rumble of recognition, and stepped forward just enough to touch Jamil's outstretched hand with his massive paw. It was a gesture neither human nor animal fully understood, trust solidified in silence. The forest exhaled alongside them. Chains lay forgotten on the soil, catching the last shafts of sunlight as the lion tested his legs, muscles trembling but alive. Slowly, deliberately, he moved away, glancing back once as if to mark a memory, then disappeared into the undergrowth, leaving behind only the faintest rustle of leaves. Jamil remained kneeling, chest heaving, the moment etched into his memory like carvings on old stone. He had not just freed a lion, he had witnessed resilience, patience, and the fragile power of trust. The jungle resumed its rhythm, but a subtle peace lingered, like a shared secret between man and beast, fragile yet eternal. A soft rustle in the undergrowth drew Jamil's gaze. The chains were gone, yet the lion did not run. He crouched near the edge of a sun-dappled clearing, muscles coiled and uncoiled in restless caution, ears flicking at every whisper of movement. Each glance toward the shadows revealed both curiosity and lingering wariness, the mark of one who had known confinement far too long. The forest was alive with sound. Birds trilled overhead, flitting from branch to branch as the lion's eyes followed their flight. Somewhere beyond the trees, water gurgled over smooth stones, carrying a scent of earth and rain. Even the wind seemed deliberate, threading through leaves and lifting dust from the forest floor. Every detail the lion absorbed, measured, and catalogued in silence. Jamil stayed hidden behind a fallen log, careful not to break the fragile boundary. His own breath matched the slow rhythm of the clearing, trying not to disturb the delicate dance between caution and trust. The lion's golden eyes flicked toward him once, and he froze for a heartbeat, muscles taut. Jamil whispered, barely audible, "It's safe, you're free." The lion's ears twitched back, then relaxed. He was testing, learning, judging, yet the tension eased just slightly. Time stretched and slowed. The lion ventured a cautious step into the clearing, then another, tail flicking like a metronome. He sniffed at the damp earth, pawed at fallen leaves, and shook out stiff muscles, golden menere catching the sunlight. Every movement was careful, deliberate, yet beneath the restraint there was a quiet spark, fragile, almost imperceptible, of something like joy. Jamil observed silently, noting the small scars along the lion's flanks, pale against tawny fur, remnants of chains and captivity. There was no anger, only quiet wariness and the effort of adapting to freedom. The lion's ears rotated, nostrils flaring, eyes sweeping the surrounding jungle. The sunlight glinted on dew-specked leaves, and the distant river rippled, carrying sense of distant creatures and possibilities. He lifted his head, sniffed the breeze, and slowly, step by careful step, began to move further from the clearing, yet never entirely leaving Jamil behind. Minutes passed, stretching into hours, measured in paw prints pressed into soft soil, in the gentle sway of ferns and low-hanging branches, in the faint creak of bending trees. The lion's cautious exploration became slightly bolder, a pause to drink from a shallow stream, a tentative rub against a low-hanging branch. Each gesture spoke to an internal negotiation between instinct and curiosity, freedom and caution. As sunlight began to filter through the canopy in golden streaks, the lion settled beneath the broad canopy of an old tree, body low, eyes half-closed but alert to every sound. Jamil crouched a few paces away, letting silence fill the space between them. No words were needed. Trust had formed not in grand gestures, but in quiet observation, patient restraint, and gentle presence. The lion lifted his head once, fixing Jamil with a gaze that held acknowledgement, a subtle recognition of shared understanding. Then, without hesitation, he rose and padded softly into the deeper forest, blending seamlessly with shadows and shafts of light. Jamil exhaled slowly, chest still tight with awe. The moment was delicate, fleeting, yet it carried the promise of new beginnings, both for the lion and for the human who had been granted the privilege of witnessing this fragile, luminous freedom. The forest seemed almost alive with anticipation. A low wind rustled through the canopy, carrying scents of moss, damp earth, and distant wildflowers. The lion moved with deliberate grace, each pawful measured against the soft forest floor. He paused often, ears swiveling, whiskers quivering, as if memorizing the terrain, learning its hidden rhythms, and deciding which paths were safe. Jamil followed at a careful distance, every step soft, every breath measured. The lion's gaze flicked toward him now and then, golden eyes alert but no longer filled with fear. The trust they shared was fragile, woven from patience and quiet observation, growing with each measured pause and cautious step. A faint gurgle of water led the lion to a small stream. He lowered his massive head, nostrils flaring, whiskers brushing the surface, and drank with careful patience. The liquid rippled around his muzzle, sunlight dancing on the surface. Jamil remained still, noticing the way the lion's muscles rippled beneath tawny fur, the subtle twitch of a claw, the slow rise and fall of broad shoulders. Each motion spoke of strength, grace, and resilience reclaimed after confinement. The jungle hummed around them. Birds flitted through shafts of sunlight, leaves shivered with the passage of insects, and somewhere in the distance, a deer bounded past, stirring echoes of motion through the trees. The lion's ears twitched, nostrils flared, yet he remained calm. Freedom had returned, but instincts had not vanished. He was learning, navigating, understanding the delicate balance between vigilance and serenity. Jamil whispered, barely audible, "It's okay, just explore." The lion's ears flicked toward him briefly, then relaxed. The words were a thread of reassurance, yet unnecessary for the understanding that existed between them. Trust was manifest in movement, in patience, in the quiet rhythm of breathing and stillness. Hours passed with this careful exploration. The lion ventured into thicker brush, testing agility, pawing at fallen branches, stretching muscles stiff from captivity. Sunlight dappled the forest floor, highlighting scars along his flanks, pale reminders of chains long gone. Yet his eyes were brighter now, reflections of curiosity and cautious excitement. By mid-afternoon, the lion found a shaded clearing. He lay down, paws tucked beneath his chest, eyes half-closed but scanning the perimeter. Jamil crouched nearby, feeling the tension in his own chest ease. He had witnessed more than survival. He had witnessed adaptation, courage, and the fragile beginnings of a bond that transcended species. A sudden rustle startled a flock of birds. The lion rose, muscles coiled, ears alert. Yet when he turned, he found Jamil still there, a silent presence, unwavering, patient. His posture relaxed, tail flicking slowly, acknowledging without words. The trust they had nurtured in hours of silence was tangible, like sunlight warming the forest floor after a long rain. As dusk fell, golden light fading to soft amber, the lion rose and moved toward a cluster of trees, then paused and glanced back. Jamil met his gaze briefly, offering no command, no insistence, only a presence that had become familiar, safe, and quiet. The lion disappeared into the shadows, blending with the forest yet leaving behind a trail of confidence, a whisper of trust that would not fade. Jamil exhaled slowly, heart heavy with awe. The forest resumed its symphony, yet within its rhythm lingered the subtle echo of connection, of patience rewarded, and of life reclaimed. The lion paused at the edge of a narrow ravine, amber eyes scanning the uneven terrain below. Sunlight struggled to pierce the dense canopy, falling in jagged beams that cut across mossy rocks and tangled roots. His paws hovered above the ground, muscles coiled, as if remembering dangers from a lifelong constraint. Every step forward was a negotiation between instinct and curiosity, each pause a testament to his time chained and subdued. Jamil remained a silent observer, crouched behind a fallen log. The forest breathed around him, leaves rustled with an unseen wind, insects hummed in delicate rhythms, and the distant gurgle of a hidden stream threaded through the undergrowth. He had learned patience over these days, letting the lion dictate the pace, understanding that freedom came with both wonder and caution. A subtle shiver passed through the lion's shoulders as he navigated the uneven ground. The scars along his flanks, pale lines against tawny fur, were reminders of captivity, chains that had confined his strength and dignity. Yet his eyes, golden and alert, held a quiet determination. Slowly, he moved forward, tentative but steady, stepping over gnarled roots and slippery stones with careful precision. The scent of a distant herd caught his attention. Nostrils flared, ears pivoted, and tail flicked in subtle recognition. He did not run, nor did he charge. Instead, he lingered, gauging distance, observing without committing. The memory of chains made him wary, yet the instinct for life beyond confinement stirred beneath. Jamil whispered softly, careful to disturb neither the lion nor the forest, "It's all right, just take your time." The words were small, barely more than a breath, yet carried reassurance. The lion lifted his head slightly, nostrils flaring at the human presence, then relaxed. No bond had been broken, only strengthened in shared silence. Hours drifted past as the lion continued to explore, cautiously probing new terrain. His muscles rippled under golden fur as he leapt over fallen branches and circled the ravine's edge, tail swishing like a metronome of thought and instinct. He paused at a shaded glade, drinking from a shallow pool, the cool water reflecting the scattered light of the afternoon. The gentle ripple traced his reflection back to him, a lion unchained, yet still learning the rhythm of his own body in a world without restraint. The forest around them was alive with subtle movement. Birds wheeled above, flitting through the shafts of light, and distant calls of monkeys echoed from high branches. The lion's ears rotated in response, sensitive to each sound, yet his body was calm, measured. Freedom had returned, but vigilance remained, a delicate balance between confidence and caution. As evening approached, the lion climbed a small rise, surveying the forest below. Jamil watched, heart tight with awe, noting the quiet dignity in every movement. The lion paused, then turned his head, meeting Jamil's gaze briefly. It was not trust-tested, nor gratitude expressed in human terms. It was acknowledgement, a quiet understanding of patience, care, and respect shared between species. Finally, the lion disappeared into the shadows of the dense undergrowth, moving with a confidence measured yet unmistakable. Jamil exhaled, feeling the forest settle around him. In the fading light, he understood that freedom was a slow reclaiming, a dialogue written in steps, pauses, and glances. The moment lingered, a silent promise of life lived on his own terms, and a bond that would endure, invisible yet profound. The morning sun filtered through a lattice of leaves, casting golden patches across the forest floor. A faint rustle heralded movement, muscles rippling beneath tawny fur. The lion emerged from the shadows, stepping lightly over soft moss and fallen branches. His posture was relaxed yet alert, a balance of strength reclaimed and instincts refined. Jamil watched from a distance, heart swelling with awe. Days of careful observation, patience, and quiet reassurance had culminated in this moment. The lion no longer glanced back with caution, only a brief acknowledgement of the presence that had been steady through his journey. Trust had been earned, mutual and unspoken, carried in the rhythm of breaths and subtle glances. The forest was alive in the early light. Birds called from hidden branches, insects droned softly in the undergrowth, and the scent of damp earth mingled with the sweet aroma of flowering vines. Every sound and smell was absorbed, measured, and catalogued by the lion, who moved as both observer and participant in this restored world. He approached a shallow stream, lowering his massive head to drink, the water rippling around his muzzle. Each paw step left deep impressions in the soft soil, marking a trail of freedom reclaimed. Jamil remained silent, noting the powerful sweep of the tail, the relaxed sway of the shoulders, the slow blink of amber eyes reflecting sunlight and water alike. There was no fear, no hesitation, only confidence tempered by wisdom earned through hardship. The lion paused at the edge of a small clearing. He sniffed the air, ears rotating to catch distant sounds, tail flicking in measured time. Then, almost imperceptibly, he glanced toward Jamil, golden eyes reflecting the quiet bond formed over days of patience. Jamil whispered, "Go, live." The words were soft, unnecessary, yet carried the weight of farewell and blessing alike. Without hesitation, the lion turned toward the dense undergrowth, padding softly among shadows and shafts of sunlight. His movements were fluid, deliberate, and unrestrained. Jamil followed at a distance briefly, watching as the lion disappeared into the deeper forest, blending seamlessly with the world he was always meant to inhabit. The forest seemed to exhale in unison, the soft crackle of leaves and rustle of ferns marking the passage of a life restored. Jamil stood still, chest tight with a mixture of awe and quiet sorrow, knowing that the bond they shared would remain intangible yet indelible. Every rustling leaf and distant call would now carry the memory of a courage witnessed, a trust nurtured, and a freedom reclaimed. As the sun climbed higher, bathing the canopy in warm light, a sense of peace settled over the clearing. The lion's roar echoed faintly in the distance, a declaration not of dominance, but of life fully embraced. Jamil turned slowly, walking back through the forest, carrying the quiet triumph and fragile beauty of what had been witnessed. The memory lingered like a shadow of gold, a story of patience, respect, and the enduring power of trust between man and the wild. And in the hush of the jungle, with sunlight dancing across leaves and water, the lion vanished into the heart of freedom, leaving behind only the echo of paws and a bond that would last forever.